So there's a lot of moving parts in cellular respiration, and I want to give you a chance to sort of practice this and review a little bit. A great way to do this is to draw 3 circles in a row and label each as step 1, step 2, and step 3 of cellular respiration, and give them their appropriate names. Identify where each step occurs in the cell. Does it happen in the cytoplasm? Does it happen in the mitochondria? Then for each step, indicate what molecules are going in and what molecules are coming out. So what are the inputs and what are the outputs? And you want to note the exact numbers of ATP that are being produced at each step. Next, put a star next to each reactant and product shown in the cellular respiration summary equation. Once you've completed this map of cellular respiration, hopefully you'll see how the different parts come together. And you want to try and answer the following questions. Which step gives you the most ATP? Which steps happen if your cells don't have oxygen? And what does that do to the ATP that you're producing? So please take 5 or 10 minutes to work through creating this practice sheet, and then come back to this video and follow up to see how you did. So what I ask you to make is a concept map, and a concept map is just a visual way of showing how different things are related. So here is our cellular respiration summary equation. We have glucose, oxygen as our reactants, and ATP, water, and carbon dioxide as our products. So we have 3 steps, step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 1 is glycolysis, step 2 is the Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle, and step 3 is oxidative phosphorylation. The next thing I ask you to write down is where these occur. Glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm, Krebs cycle happens in the mitochondria, and oxidative phosphorylation happens in the mitochondria. So let's look at the inputs for glycolysis. And there's 2 inputs, glucose and 2 ATPs. If we look at the outputs, there are 4 outputs of glycolysis. We're going to get 2 pyruvates that came from splitting the glucose. We're going to get some NADH, our loaded taxicabs. We're going to get 4 ATPs, and we're going to get a little bit of water. So that's our first step. If we look at our second step, there's only 1 input into the Krebs cycle, and that's going to be the 2 pyruvates. So where did those pyruvates come from? Step 1. An output of glycolysis is an input for the next step, and hopefully that makes sense. From the Krebs cycle, we're going to get 4 outputs. We're going to get more NADH. We're going to get a new taxicab, FADH2. We're going to get a small amount of ATP, and we're going to get some CO2. Now we go to oxidative phosphorylation, step 3. This is going to have inputs and outputs. Inputs, NADH. NADH is going to come from both step 1 and step 2. FADH is going to come from the citric acid cycle. And oxygen. We have 2 outputs for oxidative phosphorylation, 34 to 36 ATPs, and water. So what I want you to notice here is that we have net inputs and outputs, and then with each step we have things that move from one step to the next. Glucose is an input. Oxygen is an input. And notice both of those are coming into this system. ATP, we're going to put a little bit of ATP in, but we're going to get ATP out. And this ATP, except for the 2 that need to go back and be reused, are all available to go do work in the cell. Water and carbon dioxide, these are the extra waste products. Notice the water is produced in step 1 and step 3, and the carbon dioxide is produced in step 2. If we look at everything that has an arrow down here, and everything new coming in at the top, we find all of these things in this summary equation. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of a visual for the process of aerobic cellular respiration. So far we've been talking about cellular respiration as making ATP from sugar, basically from glucose. But one of the questions is, can we make ATP from complex carbohydrates or proteins or fats? And the answer is yes. They are not as ideal as plain old sugar, but you can convert from one macromolecule to another. Here we have a pizza. It's got plenty of complex carbohydrates, it's got some proteins mixed in, and some fats and oils. And you can make energy from all those different components. Carbohydrates are the easiest because they can be easily broken down into glucose. And then, of course, glucose drops into our different steps: glycolysis, the citric acid cycle, and the electron transport chain. Fats and oils, these are our true fats and oils. They can be broken into their component parts of glycerol in the long fatty acid chain. Glycerols can enter midway into the glycolysis series of reactions. Fatty acids can be converted into acetyl-CoA, which can drop into the citric acid cycle. So we don't get quite as much ATP from fats and oils, but they drop in pretty early in this process, and so we can still make ATP from them. You can also produce ATP from proteins. First, you have to get rid of the amino group because that's not part of this chemical reaction. And then some of the other parts of amino acids can be used to make pyruvate, acetyl-CoA, or other intermediates in the citric acid cycle. Unfortunately, when you break off these amino groups, they can build up and actually get toxic in your body. And proteins are sort of our last resort for generating energy. We want to use carbohydrates, fats, and oils as much as possible. Usually when someone is starving, the very last thing their body will switch to is actually breaking down muscle mass and proteins. And then they already aren't getting enough food and nutrition, but they're building up toxic levels of amino groups as they break down that muscle mass, and it can be very dangerous for the individual. So the quick answer is that yes, all three of these non-simple carbohydrates can also contribute to cellular respiration and the production of ATP.